The big drama is unfolding at Red Bull, and for once Sergio Perez is not at the center of it, with Christian Horner apparently becoming increasingly frustrated with Helmut Marko, to the point that the Austrian advisor might leave the team. It seems like Red Bull really does not have any problems connected to the actual sport, so now they have to find other ways to always be at the center of attention. What does this mean for the team and the way they'll decide their two drives for the team going forward? And could there be a big public backlash over this? The recent racist comments of Helmut Marko concerning Sergio Perez seem to have been the last drop in a glass, I'd say almost full, for a while now. For a person of his stature to be commenting on things like that is simply unacceptable, and there were many reactions from fans asking for him to be sacked. He did, however, apologize after this, but this wasn't the first time Marko was in the center of attention for something bad or something outside of Formula One. And while there is no doubt of his skills to recognize good drivers and the ruthlessness with which the Red Bull family works, there is a quote out there that says, "With great power comes great responsibilities." And one of those responsibilities for Marko is to be careful how you present yourself in front of everyone. The incident that led to Marko's apology exacerbated tensions within the team and increased the focus on the 80-year-old Austrian's position. As an advisor to Red Bull GmbH, Marko is not directly employed by Red Bull Racing, which means he falls outside of Horner's jurisdiction. But reportedly, senior figures within the company have also grown frustrated with the situation, and according to an article co-authored by former F1 driver Luciano Berti for the Brazilian outlet Globo, a meeting is scheduled for this week to deliberate on Marko's future within Red Bull. Over the past year or so, Christian Horner has increasingly inserted himself into the affairs of AlphaTauri, a domain that traditionally falls under Helmut Marko's jurisdiction. Marko has been overseeing their junior program for more than 2 decades at this point, and he's responsible for selecting and endorsing drivers he thinks are promising, whilst also sacking those he believes aren't good. The interesting thing is that this process has seen well over 100 drivers come through. And we have to admit, they've discovered some real talents, like Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel. Yet criticism has been leveled at Marko for his management of the program. Now it's evident that Horner has taken on a more active role in decision-making at AlphaTauri, a departure from the past, and this has fueled speculation that Horner might be eyeing control over the entire operation, potentially pushing Marko out of the picture. Certainly, Perez has been a major topic of discussion as well, and recently Marko even stated that Perez might need to consider changing teams if he wants to regain his form or possibly even retiring. And while the latter suggestion might not lead to an improvement, it essentially conveys that things aren't clicking for him in the current team setup. The speculation was further exacerbated when it was rumored that someone overheard Perez mention that he was considering retirement and might announce it in Mexico at his home Grand Prix. Naturally, the media immediately jumped on this, showering Perez with questions, and he addressed this in a video interview, stating that he's under contract with Red Bull until 2024 and emphasizing the importance of having a strong year ahead. He expressed his desire to continue in Formula One for another 3 to 4 years. There has been some analysis of Perez's body language during this discussion, and while I'm not an expert in this field, some might interpret his actions, like scratching his nose and preventing his look, as signs of possible anxiety or uncertainty. It's important to note that Perez, Red Bull, and his team have all firmly denied the retirement rumor. However, it remains a possibility, given the circumstances. The ultimate truth of the matter may only become clear in Mexico, whether the rumor holds any weight or if it's entirely baseless. The Sergio Perez situation is not the sole issue brewing behind the scenes, however, and this problem, if we can call it that, has been simmering since the passing of Dietrich Mateschitz in October last year, nearly a year ago. Mateschitz's shares have now gone to Mark Mateschitz, and there's also Oliver Mintzlaff stepping in to oversee operations, and Mintzlaff does not seem to have the same affinity for Helmut Marko as the elder Mateschitz did, likely due to their previous close collaboration. This has resulted in tension between Christian Horner, the head of Red Bull Racing, and Helmut Marko, who serves as the group's consultant but is deeply involved in the team's operations. Marko has enjoyed a lot of freedom while under Dietrich Mateschitz, but it all seems to be coming to an end now. There's been an ongoing power struggle since the tycoon's passing, with Horner attempting to remove Marko in order to take control of the group's entire Formula One operation. And as we said earlier, Horner already has significant influence in AlphaTauri, as seen in his involvement in driver decisions and recent changes in leadership. An intriguing aspect is Horner's desire to sack Yuki Tsunoda, as it's been suggested that his position is under threat, as Tsunoda commands a substantial $10 million from Honda, an amount that Marko has wanted to preserve to avoid potential future conflicts with the engine supplier, which holds significant control over power unit configurations. This political battle is very interesting in my opinion, as Horner may question if Tsunoda, while a solid driver, truly fits the mold for Red Bull's premier team. The fact that he hasn't been promoted after 4 years with AlphaTauri, with Daniel Ricciardo being chosen ahead of him, raises doubts about his long-term prospects. Nevertheless, Tsunoda brings invaluable Honda support, especially given their ongoing collaboration on the engine, and preserving this relationship may be crucial, particularly if Red Bull's independent engine efforts face challenges. Marko has his own perspective, while Horner seems to be the decision-maker, and the future of Helmut Marko is set to be decided in a company board meeting scheduled for this week. Oliver Mintzlaff, now assuming a more prominent role after Dietrich Mateschitz's passing, also appears inclined towards Marko's departure, aligning with earlier rumours. As we see, the situation in Milton Keynes is far from ideal, and Helmut Marko's position within the energy drink manufacturers' teams in the Premier Motorsport category is in jeopardy. If Christian Horner had the independent authority to make this decision, Marko's tenure with both Red Bull Racing and AlphaTauri would likely end very soon. This potential shift may come from a fundamental clash of perspectives on driver lineups. Marko has played a significant role in Red Bull's decisions since the team's inception, spanning several decades. Horner seeks to have greater control and sees Marko's departure as a means to that end. While he may not have the necessary support previously, the tide may be turning in his favor, with figures like Mintzlaff potentially aligning with this vision. Another factor driving this potential change is Marko's considerable PR liability. At 80 years old, he represents a different era, where retirement might have been expected. However, his passion for nurturing young talent and guiding promising drivers through their careers remains undiminished. Notable successes like Verstappen and Vettel underscore his influence, but his methods and viewpoints have consistently been controversial, the latest one of them being the recent incident involving Sergio Perez. Marko's decision-making style has also generated friction, as seen in his disagreement with Horner over Nick de Vries, and this episode illustrated Marko's stubborn, even ruthless approach to team dynamics, as he swiftly replaced de Vries mid-season with Daniel Ricciardo. Questions about succession planning for Dietrich Mateschitz and Marko have loomed since 2021, and while many expected retirement might be on the horizon for both, Marko remains firmly fixed and very honest, which has reportedly worn thin on Horner, leading to the current situation. Indeed, if Horner, potentially with support from Mintzlaff and others, manages to move Marko out, it will mark a significant shift in the leadership dynamics at Red Bull. Some might argue that this change has been long overdue, and opinions on this matter are likely to be varied. This potential transition could have implications for how Red Bull handles their driver lineup. Without Marko's input and oversight, particularly in their junior programs, the approach, I believe, will definitely change. What's unclear is whether it will change for the better or worse. Recently, there have been talks of Enzo Fittipaldi and Zane Maloney, two promising drivers in their junior program, also possibly being sacked, and this raises questions about whether Marko's decisions align with the team's best interests, or if external pressures are influencing these choices. The discussions surrounding Marko's potential departure have been ongoing, and it's evident that the aftermath of Dietrich Mateschitz's passing is reshaping the team's direction, as some speculate that the absence of Marko might lead to a more streamlined approach, while others may contend that it could potentially result in a loss of valuable talent. Ultimately, when Marko eventually retires, many, I believe, will miss the drama and controversy that often accompanied his statements. However, there are valid reasons, including PR considerations, that could be motivating Horner's desire for a change in leadership. What's going to happen, we will see in the near future, but I believe the first domino has now fallen. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Horner will sack Marko Helmut? Thank you for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.